Hello everyone, my name is Sebastian, this is Sharp Programming, and today we are looking into actually answering a question came in from a Robert. He was PMing me about a online checkbook ledger he was working on using C# and SQL. So as you already could tell, this is database related. So if this is not your strong suit, this might be a good time to actually kind of get into it, because you can do some really interesting things using SQL and databases and all this. So what we're going to be working on today, and what this message was more specific, more like aimed towards, is for me to answer the question and to do a tutorial on how you can do a checkbook ledger system online, which would like automatically count your balance, and you'd be able to, as I could tell, like put in new transfers or deposits, as in like payments or deposits, and it would count your balance throughout and give you like a final result. And that's what we're going to be doing today. As you can see, I put in a test input into the database. You can tell it's right here. I made a table called Checkbook. Now what you're going to be doing when working with this is you want to make a checkbook for each user on your system. So you want to generate like a unique ID for each user and call it like checkbook underscore that unique ID, so you can always find it for that user. And that unique ID will be specified once you register, and then it will be stored as a session value when you log in. So like you can combine some words and say we want to select from the table called checkbook underscore and then the user ID, which you can get from just having a registry of users. Now we're going to be simplifying that and not doing that, because as you might be able to tell, that could take a while. And as much as I would like to do that, I don't want to do that. It's kind of useless. If you want me to do it, tell me below and we could work out a tutorial for this as well. But for now, we're just going to be doing a general checkbook. This could be something that you would make just for yourself. No other users on it, just for you. That could be a thing. Either way, this is just a checkbook, one user, one account. Now what it does have, this table is an ID field. This is an order increment field. This is just so we can order the amount of transfers and deposits. And we have a time and date, so we can always like find out when this was, when this transfer or deposit was had. We have a deposit field, pretty much just specifies how much money was inserted. We have a payment field. It could also be a withdrawal field. Whatever it is, it's going to subtract from your balance. It could be any way from like you've transferred to another user or you've paid in a store. Either way, that's going to be a negative. And then we have the balance, which is going to be actually not really important in here. Like you could say maybe it would be important like as a starting value. And I agree. It might actually be important as a starting value, but we're not going to set that. What the balance is going to be either way is it's going to be a balance of how much money was in your account at the current time. So at this point, there would actually be 100 of whatever currency it is we're working with in your account at this point. Now, as you can tell, I've styled this a bit. You'll be able to go to my media file, which is linked down below, and you can just download the zip folder of this. And it will give you exactly the same thing in all the folders within, all the files within, I should say. So, yeah, I've done some of the groundwork. We start out by obviously setting a session. OB start, this is for headers, changing that. We have a connect PHP, which I'm not going to be showing you. This is practically just a connect script to connect to your database. This contains like all your password, your username, and your SQL link. Then I've set the char set. This is not always important, but sometimes it might be, to avoid like SQL write out errors. I have a note up here. This is just to be ignored for now, but this will be important when we're going to be inserting time and date. I've named it, set a background, done like a div. I've made a table. I've made two tables actually. The first one, as you can tell here, contains all the upper sales and a loop for looping through, how many transfers or deposits were had. So as you can tell, we are just writing out date and time, deposit, payment, and balance in one line, one row. Then we're going in to find the amount of inputs in the checkbook. This is the maximum amount. This was how many was had, like generally. So it orders by ID, and if we're going to look at it, it's going to be in descending order. So we have the first ones at the bottom, and then we're going. Oh, actually, that's not right. We have the earliest ones at the top, and then we're going down. So I set up a for loop, which we just count through how many we had and just write out a row for every one of them. In this case, we have only one for now. So its count is going to be 1, and count is going to be greater than or equal to 0, because we can have, technically we could have a row called 0. That would be an error, but it could be. We're going in to find the specific one. So we're looking for the data that is within the row where ID is the value of count. So we're going in and we're looping through. So at first it will be 1, then we're finding what is in the row where ID is 1. And then we're fetching an array for that, so we can actually test it. We then just write it out. We call that array, we called it found. Then we're going in and writing out the 4 cells, the date, time, deposit, payment, and balance. And we're just echoing what would be in found for the named balance. Now, this name in here, if you're in doubt, would be the same name as whatever table or row you're looking at. So we're selecting row 1, the first time running through the loop. Then we're echoing date, time, deposit, payment, and balance only where ID is 1, so at this row. If there were multiple, it would ignore all the others and just write out the row of 1, and then we'd obviously go back and write out another row for 2. Now that's simple enough. I made a line, an HR, just separating the table up here from the insert table, where we can insert new values. And I made a form for that. The form is encrypted as a multipart form data. Method is post. I say we accept the char set UTF-8, which is just default. The action is an insert script, which we're going to be working on later. There's nothing in that right now. It's just a blank page up here. I then have 2 text areas, one for deposit and one for payment. Now I do realize I forgot to mark those as deposit and payment, so we are going to do that. Let's see, we can just take these 2 and copy paste and say right here, going in and making a new row and marking this as deposit and payment, and that should actually do it. We can make a third one just to be sure that it's not messing up, because we do have another cell where the check button is. So there you go. Now that's marked. Great. Yes, actually we're gonna add a single thing just to make this a little more aligned. Just the text align in the center, just because that's what we're doing below. Now this I know is nitpicking, but you know, that's what we're about here. There you go, that's better. So what we're going to be doing now is working on the script. Now that is what he was focused on in the comments, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So we have our 2 forms, or our 1 form, and we're going to be testing that. So as this is triggered, this script, we know that the submit button was set, but we're still going to test it. So if is set the post and then the name of the button, else should just header right back if it wasn't set. Now this is just going to be our error for whatever reason. So header like location index.php. Now there are much more nice ways to write this out. There are prettier ways, but I think that's gonna work. And we'll also actually at the top we'll go in and say ob start, and we'll make sure that the session is set just in case. And we should also include the char set. And just to be on the safe side, also the connects script. Okay, so we need to find the name of our button and see if it was set. Now it was just called submit. That was good for me. So if that was set, we know that the user actually pressed the button, and we're 100% certain on that. So we can now see if either one of the values that could be entered was set. So if was set, post and a name. So if the actually, we could just go and do or was set. So we test both at once. There's no reason to like fluff about and test either one separately, or both of them separately, I suppose. That would be stupid and a waste of time. And we don't want to waste time here. So if they weren't, we'll just header right back, give them an error. We'll head back either way. We'll header back. Oh, sorry, header back either way. But like this will be just a fail-safe. If we didn't do this, it would literally just display a blank page and nothing else would happen. So we want to make sure that this does happen. Now, in case both of these were set, we're going to grab it and put it into a variable. So we'll call this deposit, and that would be equal to the post deposit. Actually, we could convert it. So like MySQL real escape string. Oh, there you go. Real escape string. Now this will just make sure that it fits in nicely with our database and doesn't cause a huge amount of trouble. Oh. We can just copy paste. So we have deposit and payment. Now we also want to get the date and time, so we'll just call this date. Actually, I have that in my notes up here, the time and date script. Now this is for the time zone for Denmark, which is, you know, greatest something ever in the history of the universe ever. Okay, so we now have our date. You can copy and paste this if you want to. You can also change the time zone so to fit your time zone better. Whatever floats. And then we'll do a we'll call it an insert equals MySQL query. I hope this doesn't go wrong. Probably will. Insert into, and the name of it was checkbook. This is into the table, so it's just called table, or a checkbook, and we'll insert into these rows here. So we'll say like date, time, comma, deposit, comma, payment, comma, and balance. Oof. Nah, we'll leave that for now. And out here, like values. And these are in quotes and a space between that for a failsafe. And there you go. So the first thing we'll insert into our date time will obviously be the date. We then have to insert the deposit. You have to be 100% certain you're inserting the right things. Might not go your way either way. So there you go. That should literally do it. If this doesn't do it, I don't know, probably screwed. One thing we need to add though, and give me just a moment, I'll find it. Okay, so I added this called header refresh 0 and then semicolon and index PHP. This will basically just instantly refresh your page and then send you on to the index.php, meaning that when the new values are inserted, when we are headed back, we will be refreshed so that the new values are written out, hopefully. I mean, we are hoping this will work. We're not 100% certain. So yeah, I think that is it for now. Let's try it. Okay, so let's say we deposit 200 of whatever. This will be interesting. And yeah, you can tell it literally just refreshed this, and I could tell it displayed some sort of error, though it is not here now. I guess when you instantly refresh it, yeah, something, whatever. Really doesn't matter. You could tell that it works, and we can also insert like a payment saying we maybe spent 150 that day. Let me actually. Okay, so let's refresh. Now we can also go in and delete some of the empty ones that we have. The empty cells, we don't really want those. Now, let's go through and count out the balance. So seeing as we started out with nothing, I guess the balance would be a good way to go. Now we're going to be doing 2 for loops, I suppose, and I'm not sure how much I'll be able to explain whilst we go, but I'll definitely try. Alright, so I am back now. We have finally officially figured it out. I now completely understand why you were asking. That took a while, actually. That did take quite a while. So let me just be upfront. This is kind of advanced, but the solution is quite clear. So what I did is I made a for loop for writing out the balance. Now the problem was when I went back and did the for loop every time, it would continually add all the values to the existing amount of money. So whatever was in the balance would be added to whatever was the balance at the time. So it would actually be double the balance at all times, which was quite an issue. But as you can tell, it is now working. What I had to do was I made a for loop of some variable. It gave it the amount of where we already were, like the amount of times we'd looped through. That would be the amount of rows we were on, and so the balance would be every row from there on and below. That would be the balance at the time, and we'd have to do this every time. So we'd have to find out where are we and how many rows are below me, and then add all those up. And that is done by just selecting the rows where the ID is blah, which was the variable, and then inserting that into an array. Then I had to give every balance variable a unique name. So in this case, every name is the string of balance underscore, and then an inferred variable of the count. So the first one will be balance underscore 1, the next would be balance underscore 2, and so on and so forth. This was done so that every time we'd write out the balance, it would be the unique balance at the time and not the global balance. Because if we added it all into one variable, it would make the same error of adding everything into that variable and continually doing that. So it would add, if we had 6 rows, okay, let me explain it that way. If we had 6 rows, the first one would be right. It would say, okay, so the latest one, we inserted 1000 of whatever it was. It would say the balance is 1000. But then the problem was, the next time it would go through and it will add like all these different variables to it. And so I figured out we had to have a unique variable for every loop. And it is done like so. I'm not sure how you would do it, Robert, in C#. To be quite honest, but there has to be a way. So you should look up something like dynamic variable names. That's what I did, and found out that you could do this, just double the double sign, and that would give this variable the name of this variable. Pretty simple. And then we just add the amount of money which was in there, and then we'd echo it out. I know. So what we did was we generated a unique name, and then we went through and added, we subtracted the payments from the deposits, added that into the balance. We then went through and did it another time, say the row below that, payments versus deposits, and then added that into. And so if there were 0 deposits and 100 payments, the amount added would be negative 100. And so it would subtract, and you could tell that it is working. From we were at 100, then we added 200, then we subtracted 180, which is a result of 120. Then we added 1,000. You can tell it's 1,120 now. Then we subtracted 300, which, yeah, it's 820. And then we added the 300 again to test that it was working, and indeed it was, and gave us the same amount. And that's how you do it. It is now dynamic. You can tell if we add like 500, it will go through and it will add the 500. We can then take the 500 out again, say we paid for something, and we will be back at the same result. We could do this and say, what would happen if we did this? Yeah, there you go. Subtracted 10, which was the amount lost that day. So as you can tell, the packet here, you can go download this from my media file, and you can test it out for yourself, and kind of look through the code if you didn't get it all, or maybe you'd want to look into it and kind of copy paste, and that's all right with me. You can do whatever you want with this. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and a rating. Tell me if you want me to continually build on this. We might be able to build something quite cool if you guys are interested. If not, that's all right. Just if you have any questions, programming or otherwise, just leave it down below. Any video ideas, put it below, and I will see you all next time. Thank you all for watching. This was Sharp Programming. Robert, I hope this helped, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, guys.